Whenever I'm feeling stuck as to what to read, I like to completely ignore my TBR, head over to the Celeb Book Recs Instagram account and dive inside the brain of a celebrity. This is a particularly fun activity because A, you get to nourish that weird little parasocial relationship you have with them, and B, you don't have to make any decisions. The Instagram just tells you what to do. And that's really what I'm here for. Welcome to Recovering Book Snob. My name is Chloe. Here is my tea. Mug of the week. I think this is like a random old anthropology mug actually, and I'm gonna be honest, a part of why I chose SUKI WATERHOUSE'S for this video is that I'm feeling ill and I'm a little bit zonked, and her book taste is full of books that are kind of short, kind of manageable, and I expect, fingers crossed, because we can't be sure, but I expect they'll be relatively easy reads. Sometimes you go on celeb book recs and people only recommend enormous classics. So I really appreciate when celebrities are happy to just recommend books that are considered basic without fear of backlash. Anyway, let's get into the list. These books, I actually have them physically with me here, and that's because I was able to get them at the library. I really don't want to buy books, honestly, because it's expensive and I rent and I can't store them, but also because we buy too many books, you know? There are too many out there. I will be reading 4 books in total. My Year of Rest and Relaxation, Daisy Jones and the Six, sorry, it's got the glossy library cover on it, Stay True, and My Dark Vanessa, which is on the Kindle. My Dark Vanessa is the one that I know the least about. It really rings a bell. I feel like maybe it was iconic at some point in time, but I don't know. And about it, SUKI hasn't really said anything. She just posted a book of it on her Instagram and recommended it that way, but no actual words on that book. So I'm really going in blind there. Stay True is another one that she hasn't actually said many words about. She just said that it was the book that she had with her on her tour bus. I believe it's a memoir and it's got a lot of grief in there. It's about a friendship that is cut short. I also, something about this cover, it's this kind of really beautiful like yellow, orangey, pale red framing, and then there's a photo of someone taking a photo. Something about this cover makes me feel like this book is going to be incredibly emotive. I don't know, it just looks so soft and gentle and full of love, but kind of sad at the same time. Am I reading too much into it? Daisy Jones and the Six. So she was obviously in this show. I watched the first kind of half episode of Daisy Jones and the Six and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't hate it, but I just was completely not compelled to continue. So I'm really interested to see how I find this one. She also recommended The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I have read and I have enjoyed. I've read a bit of Taylor Jenkins Reid and her writing is just really easy to read, I find. Like, it's very juicy and compelling, and there's a good amount of drama, but it also does have depth and it's quite emotional and the stories feel quite original. I also like how her stories are not romances, but they have romance in them. I've recently been struggling through some romance books, and I have to say I really appreciate romance, but there has to be more to a book. That's where I'm at right now, at least. I'm trying to keep an open mind, but yeah. And this is one of those books. I don't think it's a romance. Finally, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I actually feel like this is a little bit controversial, this book. I haven't heard entirely good, I haven't heard entirely bad. I see it recommended a lot, but then I also see it on quite negative lists quite a lot. I honestly have no idea what it's about. The photo makes me think it's based back in the day, like a while ago, but I don't know. I also see it alongside Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason in lists, and I recently read Sorrow and Bliss and I did enjoy that. So I think I'll enjoy this too. Honestly, I think this is gonna be quite a boring video because I think I'm gonna enjoy all the books. Yeah. About this one, she said she is bedridden until nostalgia is out, having to read My Year of Rest and Relaxation just to get through. Each turn of the page gives me the strength I need to go on. So I think that's a pretty positive review. And then Daisy Jones and the Six, she says, it's not very often where you get to audition and you see that one of your favourite books is being adapted into a TV show. Okay, I feel like I'm not really taking anything from that because you have to suck up to the show that you're in, you know? I'm not really sure which one to start with. I think because I'm feeling a bit sluggish, I'm gonna start with my year of rest and relaxation because it's the shortest and it also just fits my vibe the best right now. Hello, I am about to go for a run. I know, very impressive. But yeah, I've just had a little reading session with this. I have read the first chapter. Nothing's really grabbing me. Like no comments, negative or positive really. I do quite like the premise. I think the premise is quite fun. It's basically about a woman who has decided to have a year of rest and relaxation. She's kind of depressed, has quite a dodgy doctor. Her parents have died. It's kind of interesting because it's very clear from the get-go that you're not really meant to like her as a character. The tightrope is always quite tricky between like having a character that is really unlikable, but you don't want them insufferable to the point where you don't want to read. At the moment it's fine. She also has a dodgy on again, off again boyfriend and a dodgy best friend. So there's a lot of dodginess in her life. Hello, we are one book down. I was literally just lying on the sofa all morning and I'm slightly ill, but I finished this one. And a pretty easy read. I really tore through those pages, so I can't really complain in that department. I have to say though, I am kind of disappointed because I thought I would either love this book or I would hate this book, and I just kind of liked it. I'm not raving about it, but I also wouldn't tell anyone to not read it. Most of all, I was just really impressed by the feat of writing a book like this. So the premise is, as we know, a really rich woman decides to try to sleep for a year, and her vision is that she'll emerge from her cocoon a new person, when really she's just like got some quite serious mental health problems and is massively abusing sleeping pills. But she kind of romanticizes this idea, and because she's very wealthy, her parents are really rich and she's inherited money from them because they both died, she is able to just live this bizarre life where no responsibilities and sort of no money troubles pester her, and she also doesn't really have many relationships or friends. So I think it's just an interesting type of story, because usually if someone's really depressed or tries to shut the world out, and in these kind of stories you have to explore all these like complicated consequences from the behaviour, you know, whether it be in relationships or the bills start piling up, things like that. But it was kind of interesting seeing it where we don't need to worry about those types of consequences, and the focus really is just on her brain and what's going on in her head. And I do think I am impressed. I think it was executed well, and I think especially the point of view is first person, and she's constantly having blackouts, doesn't really know what's happened, is thinking a lot of weird things and is reminiscing, and we're jumping back and forth, and yet you could feel that the story was building up to something, and it did feel quite cohesive. Because I think sometimes with books, when they're trying to depict someone kind of descending into madness, you can feel that you get a little bit lost and the writing's a bit confusing, and yes, maybe that's the point, but I think it is quite hard, or I imagine it's quite hard as an author, to write about someone who's slightly losing their mind without also losing the audience. But I don't know, overall I didn't enjoy the book loads. She's a really disgusting character, which I didn't actually find to be a problem. Sometimes I get too irritated by characters and I just hate reading on, but she's just really vile, and she's got this level of self-awareness that only really makes her worse, because she has this one friend who's definitely imperfect, but our protagonist is very arrogant and clearly thinks that she kind of has everything worked out and has everyone around her worked out, and it's quite remarkable her lack of empathy. So it was sort of funny, but mostly just scary, and I thought that some of the learnings and the moments where this book tried to get a bit deeper, that's where it fell short, and that's why I ultimately feel a bit kind of meh I do think though that it's been a really good one to start on when it comes to the psychoanalysis of SUKI WATERHOUSE'S. Okay, on to the next. What should we do next? I'm thinking Daisy Jones. I think we should go for Daisy Jones next. It calls something a little bit thicker. It's actually kind of long. It's like 400 pages. Okay, better get going. I think, because apparently now I've like looked on the internet, people complain that the main character in My Year of Rest and Relaxation is just like too awful, but I quite enjoy that they don't redeem her really at all. I think because she's going through grief, like there are loads of opportunities to get a bit deeper, like get a bit of nuance, but I think that just would have made it a very different book. And it would, like, I don't think that necessarily would have improved it, it just would have changed it quite a lot. I quite like that she was just awful and that we weren't really given that many opportunities to cut her slack. But anyway. I just finished Daisy Jones and the Six, and honestly, I had such a good time. I was quite cynical about Suki's quotes at the beginning of this video when she's talking about Daisy Jones and the Six, because I'm like, oh, obviously you have to suck up to the story. But reading it, it's just such a fun book to read, and I can so see, like, if I was in her position, how excited you would be to play this role, because it's about a rock and roll band. So there's already a layer of fun there, but also the way that this story is structured is through, it's just an interviewer talking to each member of the band in the present day, and they're looking back on just what happened, what led to their infamous breakup. And the whole point of these interviews is that the story that you're reading is very unreliable narrator. Like, you have moments where people will directly contradict each other, like one line after the other. And I really appreciated how the interviews were interwoven with one another, kind of in the way that you would watch a documentary. They would obviously cut people's stories up, but yeah, I just really liked having all the perspectives in one go. It just added this like energy to the book. And to be honest, I've been ill all of today and I've just been sitting on the sofa reading this, so I've essentially read this in a day. Which, I don't know, it was so easy. It was so easy to read this book in a day. And there are also fully kind of fleshed out lyrics at the back. You have the lyrics to all the songs at the back, and I'm always curious with the research that has to go into the technical details. There was a lot of discussion of songwriting, and I kind of wonder what a little music nerd would think about some of the things in this book. But yeah, a really good time, but also just quite emotional, quite cute. It's just a classic Taylor Jenkins read, really. She writes these books that seem, fluff is a really is used in a really derogatory way, but they're very kind of easy to read, they're very glamorous, they're often about celebrities, they're very fun, and so you kind of get lulled into this false sense of security where you think it's a bit of a shallow story, but you're suddenly just hit by like emotion. Like, I was emotional at quite a few points in this book. So yeah, an amazing time, and it's made me really excited for Stay True, because the two books that we've read already have been like popular TikTok, very basic, I mean that with love, whereas Stay True I really don't know what it'll be like. Here I go, wish me luck. I'm hoping not to read this one in a day because it was a little bit ridiculous. We have finished Stay True. I actually finished it yesterday. I just was lying down on the sofa, absolutely absorbed. This book is so immersive. You know when an author, or it feels like an author, has just kind of walked into the room and they've said, get comfortable, and you get comfortable, you sit down or you lie down even, and they just hold your brain tenderly as they guide you through a tale that kind of meanders to and fro. It was very engaging, while also being a little bit waffly. There isn't really a plot, to be honest. Even the main climax, which is the death of his friend, just gets sort of dropped in there when you don't expect it, or with very little build-up, which I guess is like how it happens, so it's reflecting that at least. But no, this book is very intelligently written. I can definitely see why it's kind of won prizes. It's a real book lovers type of book. You can tell that the author loves writing. There's a real like love for words on a page, and it's kind of poetic, and it's definitely got that sort of energy to it. I have to say that the book doesn't actually reflect on grief that much at all, and yeah, in general he doesn't even really touch on, he talks a lot about his friend who dies, and his kind of personality, but even then it does still feel like he's talking about his perspective when he was younger, as someone who's kind of just hero worshipping this guy who's so not like him. I personally would have liked a bit more of the characters to come through. There's a lot on all his hobbies and interests. He has a Zine and things like that. Overall, it just feels like a very personal time capsule, and I just found it a really unique read. I'd definitely recommend it. I'm so glad that Suki recommended it, because I somehow hadn't heard of this book. Okay, I have actually begun My Dark Vanessa, but I've realised that it's 400 pages and I don't want my brain to explode. So I will finish it, but off vlog. I'll finish it off vlog. So I'll talk about it on Goodreads if you want to see what I think about it there. Overall, I'm definitely going to be returning to SUKI WATERHOUSE'S book recommendations. I definitely didn't really give her enough credit. Even when I was talking about this book, when I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, this looks like it'll be emotional. And it wasn't as emotional, but what it lacked on that front, it just made up for in overall poetic, like beauty of writing energy, which was really cool. I like it when a book surprises you. Now that I've read them, these books are just exactly what I would think that SUKI WATERHOUSE would suggest. So I haven't been surprised in that sense, but it has been fun to read some stuff that I wouldn't otherwise. She's an actor and a musician, and there is a bit of variety between Daisy Jones and the Six, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and Stay True, but all of them in different ways are kind of like love stories to the arts, either just with the storyline in Daisy Jones and the Six, or in the way that they're written. You can tell that the people who create these stories absolutely love all that stuff, and I think that's why it's been such a fun experience to read. But yeah, I hope you're having a lovely day. I hope you're having a lovely week. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.